We welcome you to episode 11 of Tuesday's Upset Forecast powered by Bookmakers Bet.
Every Tuesday, we break down sharp betting angles across football, basketball, and other sports. Core 4 picks, 5 rapid fire predictions, all in less than 30 minutes.
And remember, we're on all over social media. We're on X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We are, of course, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you should follow us. And don't neglect our website, which has some hidden gems. And I gotta brag about one. Our bet of the day column. Every day, we pick the best bet of the day. On Saturday, we were very spot on during the Hamburg vs Union Berlin, both teams to score, where we even predicted Leopold Kerfeld of Union Berlin to score a
Nice.
penalty. Having said that, I'm DimiCub. Here I have my good friend Brad Thomas, who is ecstatic about the Champions League return, aren't ya?
Yeah, I'm really stoked about Champions League coming back, especially you'll see my first Champions League picks when we get there because I took a nice plus odds money line on a team that I hold near and dear to my heart.
But before we go there, let's talk a bit about last week. Let's talk a bit about a pretty successful week that was in the books. I mean, my PL pick one, Aston Villa vs Brighton, easiest under ever. My League on pick one, Lorient did it. Of course, my EuroLeague pick one,
Nice.
because I'm Mr. EuroLeague, I guess. I lost in Atletico Madrid. They didn't even manage to get a goal against Vallecano and still the over one. How about you, Brad? How was
Let's
your
start
week?
with the haircut game, right? United put up 0 fight in that match. It was the dumbest game I've ever watched. Both teams scoring over
Yes.
2.5 lost. And then at the end of the game, they were talking about how they do not care. How do they not care about a haircut? And as a quick interruption, we are totally degenerates right now. The Ahali lineups just released and they rotated, of course. Anyways, back to the regular programming. Anton Semenyo is always and will always be a beast. Golf was interesting. Ryan Gerard stunk, but it was 2-1. Como stunk, couldn't get that second goal. But Lazio, wow, didn't think Lazio would be the one that was relatively sweat free on the double chance there. So all in all, it was an up and down week. I'm ready to get back after it and cash some more tickets, though.
I know you will. I know you will. Okay, so I think it's time to quickly get into the Champions League episode 11. We got the 4 full breakdowns and the lightning round.
The champions. Every time I think of Champions League, I think about the music. Then I think about the globe, the Champions League globe with the lights coming on, because now we are into the nitty gritty. We're into the knockout rounds. Champions League, my first pick, Galatasaray versus Juventus. And while I do like both teams to score in over 2.5 as my favorite bet, I'm going to take Juventus to win against Galatasaray. First and foremost, I understand that playing in Turkey is going to be very difficult, right? It's not going to be just a walk in the park. And this is a really, really talented Galatasaray team. But what has been very evident and very clear is this Galatasaray team has prioritized bolstering their attack more than bolstering their defense. Yes, they've only conceded 15 goals domestically, but that's a big difference, right? 15 goals domestically is something that I don't care if it's going to resonate. I mean, I don't say it's a translation of directly resonating. They went out, got Noah Lang. Now they're playing Noah Lang, Icardi, Osimhen, Kun, all in the same lineup, right? Gundogan's slow in the middle. They have no real anchor for the defense. It is 6 to 7 in attack, and basically overwhelming pressure is what they do to their domestic partner. But one thing that we've noticed with Spalletti in this Juventus side, which was a lot different, was his ability to control the game and control the possession without having to compromise defensively, without having to lose that balance. Under Igor Tutor, other Igor Tudor, there was many times where Juventus would try to overwhelm their opponents, but they would be sending 7 or 8 in attack, leaving themselves vulnerable. Too many players up the pitch and not enough balance in the midfield caused them to get beat and concede a ton. Have you ever been have you ever been more impressed with a team playing down a man and losing a match than against the Derby Italia, against Inter Milan? They were down a man, they leveled it, yet they could not hold on. But the way they played with belief that they could get a point out of there is a lot of the reason that Spalletti has kind of rejuvenated this side. I think Galatasaray, if they go with that bravado of starting, I'll call them their core four now, their new attacking four. I think the Juventus team will be able to get this team stretched and score. Juventus has had a sick, amazing run, right? And yes, they lost the Coppa Italia. Who cares, right? Juventus rotated in that game. They drew against Lazio, which a match they dominated. 34 shots, XG 2.81. I think this is going to be a big win in Turkey for Juventus. I still have Juventus as a long shot to win or at least make it to the finals of the Champions League.
Taking the core four attack for the first of your core four picks.
I am. I am.
That's interesting. You know what? The moment you put that on our sheet, and take the audience a bit behind the scenes here, I wanted to dispute that so hard. You know, because my core belief is that Galatasaray are going to advance instead of Juventus. However, everything you said is so concrete, the way you presented, that now I'm starting having second thoughts about my take on this matchup. What I had in mind was that, Galatasaray are going all in from the beginning. We have we've watched all their games in at home. They're very strong, they like to put pressure on the opponents from the first minute to the ninth. But here I'm a bit in doubt. You're right that Juventus are going to find lots of spaces on Galatasaray's back four if they play with a back four and they don't go with three in a line. That which is something they're not used to. So back four it is. I'm not going to back this pick actually, but I'm also not going against it. And I know that this is a pick that came from data, from analysis. It's not about your your soft feelings about Juventus. 100%. We've seen you many times, going against Juventus. I'm just going to pass on that and hope that Juventus does the away win. And eventually, I guess, advances because if they do the away win, they advance. Although with that change in away goals, things are different in the recent Champions League knockout matchups. Look, this episode could be totally dedicated to Champions League. We could release 8, 10, 15 Champions League picks, but I think we should stick to 2 or 3. So in that respect, my first pick and our second Champions League pick comes from Azerbaijan in Karabak's game vs Newcastle. Look, Karabakh was one of the very pleasant surprises of the league phase. They managed to qualify for the playoffs that pretty much nobody expected them to do before the league phase started. And they managed to do it in a pretty convincing way, in my eyes, especially at home. They won against Copenhagen, they won against Eintracht Frankfurt, they drawn against Chelsea in a match that they stood up to Chelsea and managed to get a very brave, a very valiant 2-2 draw. I think that qualifying for a team of Karabakh stature, qualifying to the next stage in Champions League is a giant feature on itself. I don't think they will go any further.
No.
This is why I expect them to play their game, to fancy their chances. As we've seen in the first games of 2026 in the Azeri League, they've kept a very low pace. This means that they're preparing for the huge contest against Newcastle. We're talking about a team that not only won, actually didn't lose, three of their four home games in the Champions League. We're talking about a team that scored minimum 2 goals per game at home. And we're talking about a team that scored in 6 of their 8 league phase games. And they did against opponents, apart from the ones that I mentioned, they scored against Bilbao, they scored against Ajax. This sounds very big for a Karabakh statue. On the other end, we have Newcastle, which is a goal conceding machine. They did win against Villa in the FA Cup. They did win against Spurs, but a goal hit in all 6 of their last games. And in the league phase, because first of all, the stats we have to follow come from the league phase. They don't come from the Premier League. I mean, Karabakh are not Liverpool. They're not Manchester City. In their away games, they were weak. They had 1 win, 1 draw, 2 losses. 3 times in 4 games, both teams scored. What I would like to all this analysis here is the fact that Bruno Guimaraes is going to be out for 2 months. And this is something that affects them both offensively, but not that much, but mostly defensively, because Bruno Guimaraes is the one that connects everything in that midfield. You have Tonali, you have Zwellington, but I consider both of them as role players. Bruno Guimaraes is the star of that machine. As I told you in the beginning, I don't expect Karabakh to go any further. I expect the Magpies to qualify. I expect the Magpies to win, but I really think that they will concede at least once. So I'm going with both teams to score, average odds of 1.85.
Man, I think both teams to score in every Newcastle away match is going to be hitting for a while, at least while Bruno Guimaraes is going to be away. So I have no disagreement with your pick. I'm just going to move straight into my Premier League pick. And for the record, I think the podcast listeners should know that I love your Premier League pick coming up because it was originally going to be my pick, but we didn't want to cheat you guys
I didn't
out
want
of
to spoil
having
that, but okay.
we didn't want to cheat you guys out of having the same back-to-back pick because we are a podcast for the people. So we wanted to give you guys 2 different Premier League picks. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Brentford versus Brighton. A while back, and by a while I mean a couple weeks, couple games, I thought there would be this turnaround for Hertzler's Brighton squad. It was a team that had high XG, and I thought they would come and meet that XG in the middle somewhere. And this was basically at home, right? The problem that has been for this Brighton team is the lack of a real goal scorer. And I don't not discrediting Danny Welbeck or Rutte even at that point, but I mean they do not have a guy on their team who can consistently be turned to and say, we need a goal. Go manufacture us a goal. It's a team of a bunch of players. And while that's never a terrible thing, it's a bad thing when your team is going through a rut. This is a team that has just looked pretty awful. And it's a team that I've been okay with fading. That's their home numbers where they are around 1.49, 1.5 XG at home. The numbers get worse at home. This is a team that's mightily, the numbers get worse on the road. This is a team that struggled mightily away from home. So let's talk about the record 2, 4, and 7 away from home this season. Goal differential -6. XG of just 1.38. Goals scored per contest, 1.08. That ties back to what I was saying. It's a team that struggles to manufacture goals. While bad news, they're conceding 1.54 goals per contest. Not keeping clean sheets. They're giving up possession and they're allowing a ton of shots. I always want to bet on a Brentford team that is going to lose the bulk of possession, but it's probably not going to be the case in this match. And we're going to see what Brentford can do at home while winning the possession. Remember, this is a Brentford side who, even at home, concede the possession 45% of the 55% of the time because they know that their transition with guys like Igor Tutor is just I just said Igor Tutor. Thiago, excuse me, I'm thinking about Juventus. Thiago is just so crisp and clean. 7-4-1 at home this season, scoring 1.85. And how they're doing it, they're scoring first. They're saying, here, guys, you can have the bulk of possession. You can have your XG of being 1.8. We don't care because we're going to score again, and then we're going to try to score again in transition every single time. Give me Brentford money line.
You know what? First of all, I don't blame you for mentioning Igor Tudor because he also lives in my mind rent free ever since he was announced to be the Tottenham manager. I'm trying to find how is this guy hired in a Premier League team. Sorry, Igor, about that. If there's, the slight possibility that Igor Tudor is listening to us, I'm terribly sorry. But you gotta give me notes on that. Regarding Brighton, I talked about it in our latest podcast as well. It is really a study case on how, from that heavy metal, high pressure football they were playing, they ended up to this thing, producing less than 0.50 x goals in almost every game as of late. It's terrible. Brentford are the clear favorites here. Brentford are the ones that I'm gonna back as well, for sure. In my eyes, Brentford is a serious continental football contender. So yes, Brad, I'm going with the money line as well here. And now I think it's time to move on to the next pick, to your initial pick, which I must have the honor to present as my pick. However, both of us are going to win it, so don't worry about that. Midweek Premier League. Wolves against Arsenal. Bottom of the table against top of the table. David vs Goliath. And I'm pretty sure that in this case, Goliath is going to prevail. Everybody's been talking about whether Arsenal are going to bottle or not. Well, the answer is maybe. I mean, it's not that they're a goal scoring threat or something, you know? But in this case, they're going up against a Wolves side that are heading straight to the championship. We're talking about a Wolves side that is terrible. Sometimes they're not as bad as their results show, but, you know, I guess they're mostly bad for the largest parts of the season, which was also depicted in their last two games. In their latest one, they got a lucky draw in City Ground against Nottingham Forest, who after that sacked their manager, Sondage, where Nottingham Forest had 35 shots with 2.55 x goals for. For that, they went up against Chelsea in one of Brad's successful predictions. They managed to do no contest against Chelsea. They lost by 2 goals with an astonishing 3.44 x goals against. The fact that they scored once says nothing in this case. If Arsenal really want to do something, they have to win against Wolves. They have to win in Molino. We saw them winning decisively against lower table teams in their latest games. They had 1.50 x goals for, 0.19 x goals against via Sunderland, 3-0 win. They had 2.19 x goals for, 0.15 x goals against VS Leeds, with a 4-0 win. They were also better in X goals against Manchester United as well, but they lost. This is where, the doubters surfaced again. So I'm not expecting a similar case to the Man United match or the Brentford match. I'm expecting a similar case to the Sunderland match and the Leeds match. Arsenal are going to win. They are not going to concede. I mean, it will be a huge upset if they even concede. And I also think that they're going to score more than one goal and cover the spread. So my prediction, that's prediction, our prediction is Arsenal minus 1.5 handicap, 1.83 average odds. Make sure to shop around in Bookmakers Bet and find the best prices.
I agree. I love this bet. Also, I think we
It,
should highlight the
it was
depth
your
of
bet
Arsenal,
initially, so
the depth of Arsenal's squad versus the depth of Wolves. Wolves had to play a weekend cup match, and so did Arsenal. But Arsenal were able to rotate most of their top players, where Wolves played a lot of their top players. So they're also the leg freshness advantage is going to be in favor of Arsenal. But that said, it is time for the quick hitters. 5 picks, one liners in and out. It is the lightning round. And I'm going to start first. Genesis Invitational, Hideki Matsuyama, top 20, minus 114. Hideki Matsuyama has just been playing fantastic this season. And we have to highlight Genesis moves back to Riviera after a brief stint at Torrey Pines due to the California fires, but it's back. Hideki is a past champion here, technically the defending champion at Riviera. So I'm going to take him top 20. I probably will take him to win, but right now we're just going to reserve our right to take him top 20.
before I move on to my first quick hitter, I have to say that no EuroLeague this week, but I'm going to the Europa League. And I'm going to take over 2.5 goals in PAOK vs Celta. So, both teams were very proactive in the league phase of the Europa League. PAOK were third in goals and fifth in XG4. Celta were tied fourth in goals for. Both teams were in bottom half of the table in conceded goals. We have their league phase encounter that ended in a 3-1 win for Celta, and two straight over 2.5 in Celta's latest domestic games, average odds of 1.91.
I'm going to the Olympics. I don't think we've given out an Olympic pick yet. I'm going to the hockey, men's hockey, Sweden versus Latvia, and I'm taking over 6.5 goals. Originally, I was going to take Sweden minus 3.5 on the goal handicap. It's around plus 140, but I actually liked the goals more because we're no longer in group play, which means we'll see empty netters. I mean, excuse me, we'll see oppositions, losing teams pull their goalie more earlier, more frequent, because it doesn't matter if you get beat by 30, it's not going to harm you because you don't have to worry about goal differential. So we could see a lot of empty netters, or at least opportunities for empty netters. And also, I just think it's a team mismatch. There's so much firepower on this Sweden team, and Latvia has shown that they can get goals on their end too. So I like over 6.5 goals in that game.
Love your Olympic spirit here. I'm going to Serie A, and I'm going to back Milan against Como. This is a very, very high value early price, 2.40 average odds. Wow. We're talking about the only viable title contenders, apart from Inter, of course. Milan must win to stay close to Inter. They have gone 9 games undefeated. They won 3-1 pretty recently, I think about a month ago. Como, As they've shown in their game against Fiorentina, they're mostly focused in the Coppa Italia semifinals. They have not won any of their last two league games, and they're not going to win this one as well.
I'm gonna go with my pick. Sorry, I thought you were going a little bit deeper. I forgot we were doing the lightning round. I'm gonna take I'm gonna go to the Premier League, Manchester City versus Newcastle. I'm going City team total over 2.5 plus 128. City don't really score a ton of goals in the second half. Probably the worst. It is not probably. It is the worst goal tally in the second half for any of the top 10 sides or top half clubs. But Newcastle just have been disjointed. They're going to be disjointed. They stink on the road without Bruno G, if Joe Linton's going to be out, their midfield is just basically a bunch of attackers with no balance. And I think City can exploit that. So I like their team total over 2.5 at plus 128.
Now that the pretty unique lightning round is over, we have our four full picks, the core four: Juventus to win against Galatasaray, both teams to score in Karabakh vs Newcastle, Brentford to win against Brighton, and Arsenal to cover and 1.5 spread against the Wolves. Of course, we have the rapid five in there too.
As in every week, we'll track everything the wins, losses, heartbreaks, all of it.
And since Cardi B showed no sign of following us, I'ma repeat it. This show was made for you. We want you to spread the word. We want you to hit the comment section. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. At any time, you can access our verified sportsbook at bookmakers.bet. All links will be in the episode description.
And remember, to bet a winner, you got to feel a winner. And to feel a winner, you got to be a winner.
Don't forget to bet responsibly.